here. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. We're going to start before we get into the football. Most surprising thing that you did this offseason? Something that would surprise fans that maybe it's not just a trip to Europe or whatever. What do you got?
Most surprising thing. Man, I don't have too much surprising stuff, man. I went on a trip to Hawaii with my family.
There we go.
That was pretty fun. Haven't done a family trip in a while, so it was a good time.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the football. Biggest difference between Jordan Love in 2024 and 2025 is what?
Man, I think it's just taking that next step, like continuing to keep growing myself and just find ways to get better and keep improving on things. So I think a big focus for me is just the consistency, trying to be the best player I can be every play with my footwork and accuracy. And then obviously I think just continue to create more plays and make more off-schedule plays and use my legs a little bit more when things might be a little bit broken down. But I think just continue to build on the little things and keep stacking.
What did you see on tape when you watched yourself last year that either you say, okay, I'm honing in on this? Like, just give me a self-scout for Jordan Love 2024.
Yeah, no, I think from last season, the biggest thing was accuracy. I think there was some just inconsistency with the accuracy and things like that where balls that, keep you up at night where it's like, man, I could have easily made this. And it might be just something's wrong with my feet. Maybe I'm not opening up enough or following through. So just little things. But I think the biggest thing is just I feel like I wasn't creating as many off-schedule plays last season. Obviously I was dealing with some injuries, different things like that. But I think that's a big part of my game that I got to get back into.
Yeah, obviously you get hurt in week one, and all of a sudden the ad-lib stuff, it can go. That's that's the first thing to go, right? When you're talking about mobility and all that stuff.
Sure.
So how do you get back to that where you're able to make the off-schedule stuff, knowing that you're not even going to know what you need until the heat of battle?
100%. I think it's just trying to push yourself in practice. I think the main goal for me is trying to make every situation as game-like as possible. So if the rush is getting there, try and find ways to get up out of there. It keeps training the receivers on what to do and our scramble drill mechanics. And when they see me get off schedule, to keep working for me and keep making those plays. So I think it's just making an emphasis on focusing on it in practice and making those off schedule plays.
Yeah, I was going to say, part of it, like I remember talking to Mahomes about this years ago and Veach and those guys, like you have to either scout for a type of receiver who can make those ad-lib plays or just develop chemistry with these guys here. Like, how do you develop that chemistry with those receivers so hey, when I go here, you go here?
Yeah, it's all developing that chemistry, and it comes from reps. We do it in our group install period when there's no defense out there. And then obviously once you get a defense out there, it's just being on the same page. Yeah. Like if somebody's on your back, push up a little bit, come back down or throw a hand up. And so it's all the little body language to, tell me where you might be going so we are on the same page. But it's just reps.
Obviously, most drops in the league last year. It's a stat that gets bandied about. As a quarterback, how do you process that? Is that chemistry? Is that you can throw a better ball in some situations? Like, when you hear that number, how do you process that?
Aaron Rodgers has reached an impressive milestone in his career, 20 seasons playing in the NFL. Over the course of 2 decades, he has accumulated remarkable achievements, including championships, individual awards, and countless memorable moments. With all that experience, few active players carry the same level of knowledge and poise. Still, 2025 marks a new phase for the veteran quarterback. He now wears the black and gold of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Despite all his experience, Rodgers is still in the process of adapting. He joined the Steelers late in the offseason, which means he's still learning the offensive playbook and working to build chemistry with his new teammates. Training camp has been crucial for that. Little by little, the veteran is getting more comfortable, and his performance has improved as practices progress. Last Tuesday, Rodgers delivered one of his best practices since arriving in Pittsburgh. He threw accurately, spread the ball around the field, and showed off the arm strength that made him one of the most feared quarterbacks in the NFL. It was an encouraging sign after a few quieter sessions early in camp. Still, building chemistry with the team's receivers is a process that takes time. With the Steelers' first preseason game set for this week, speculation has emerged about whether Rodgers will take the field. However, the quarterback himself has tempered those expectations. In an interview with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette YouTube channel, he said, "I don't think it's in the plan for me to play this week, but whatever Mike Tomlin wants to do, I'm all in. If he wants me to go out there and play, I'll play. If not, then I won't." At 41 years old, it makes sense for Rodgers and the coaching staff to take a cautious approach. Preseason games, while useful for testing and adjustments, carry unnecessary risk for a veteran like him, especially given his recent injury history. He's still learning the system under offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, and the priority is to have him fully ready for the regular season opener. However, if the offense continues to show progress in practice, Tomlin may consider giving Rodgers a few snaps. That decision will likely depend on how the team looks this week. If everything goes smoothly, Rodgers might end up being held out, a prudent move, considering his age and importance to the team. Even if he does play, the expectation is that it would only be for a single drive. The primary goal at this point isn't volume, but safety and rhythm. Rodgers has made it clear on several occasions that he doesn't view preseason action as particularly valuable. According to him, the playbooks are too limited, defenses run basic coverages, and there's often an informal agreement between coaches to minimize blitzes and pressure. Preseason football isn't really real football, Rodgers said. You go out there with a very limited playbook against defenses running cover 1, cover 3, or 2 high zone. There's not a lot of pressure. A lot of times, there's even communication between coaches like, "We're not bringing pressure this week," or "Let's bring a little more pressure." It's really about operation. In that sense, Rodgers sees more value in joint practices with other teams, like the upcoming sessions the Steelers will have with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These practices offer real game situations against unfamiliar opponents, without the elevated risk of an actual game. And since the Buccaneers aren't on the Steelers' regular season schedule, both teams can run real schemes without worrying about revealing strategies for a future matchup. Joint practices are super helpful, Rodgers said. You usually don't play those teams in the regular season, so you can execute real stuff. Even if there are cameras, coaches are less nervous about showing things they've been working on at camp. Those practices against Tampa Bay could be exactly what Rodgers needs at this stage of his preparation. They should give the coaching staff a clearer picture of how the offense is progressing under his leadership, without putting him at unnecessary risk. There are still 2 more preseason games after this week, so Rodgers could still get some reps down the line if Tomlin feels it's necessary. For now, though, Steelers fans may have to wait a little longer to see their new quarterback in action officially. Everything points to his real debut coming in week 1 of the regular season. In the meantime, Rodgers remains focused on accelerating his transition to the new team. His history shows he's a master at commanding complex offenses, and the Steelers hope he can replicate that success in Pittsburgh. His leadership, football IQ, and passing accuracy are still intact, and the hope is that, with time and patience, those qualities will translate into wins. The fan base is excited but also aware that this is a process. Rodgers' arrival has brought new energy into the Steelers' locker room and has elevated expectations for the 2025 season. Even after 20 years, he remains motivated and ready to write another chapter in his story, this time in a new city. The presence of a future Hall of Famer in Pittsburgh changes the team's trajectory. With a talented roster around him, especially on defense, the Steelers see 2025 as a year full of possibilities. But it all starts with a solid foundation built in training camp, joint practices, and, maybe, some preseason action. Whether he's playing or observing from the sidelines, Aaron Rodgers is now a central piece of the Steelers' plans. And, step by step, he's beginning to leave his mark on another storied NFL franchise.